Alrighty, the Bulldogs finished sixth, knocked out by Manly despite leading the majority of the elimination final. Future of Addo-Carr is obviously up in the air. Serraldo's second season. I mean, there is plenty to talk about the Bulldogs, but Smithy, I'd love to get your thoughts, mate, on their performance, but also their season.
Yeah, well, the performance up until the last 7 minutes, mate, was fantastic. They were the best team on the field. There's no doubt about that. You look at if you weren't able to watch the vision of the game and you're just going by numbers, right? If someone just presented you the stats of the match, you'd think, well, Bulldogs win this one. They dominated pretty much every category of the game. So they looked the winner pretty much the whole way through until that, as we spoke about earlier in the show, the big play from Manly in the last 6 or 7 minutes. But outside of that, like they got to be pretty proud of their year. They've done really well, to get this squad and this list up. Cameron Ciraldo and his coaching staff to get this team up and about and playing finals footy, and they're only going to be better. Like you'd think for the run this year and the experience that they picked up, particularly, just playing this first week of finals, they now know, like, okay, well, we can navigate our way through a season a little bit better, having gone through this year, finishing top 8, first week of finals, did everything but get the victory in the end, really. I guess the one thing that was a bit of a talking point, particularly last week, was maybe the Addo-Carr situation. Was that a distraction for the footy side? Not great timing at all. And really, we just got to wait and see now what's going to happen with Josh in the future, well, his future at the Bulldogs. Outside of that, though, you just mentioned Cameron Ciraldo as coach. Second season in charge has seen him move from 15th and now finish in the top 8. Like that's a huge turnaround.
I'll tell you, turnaround. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this premise, Smithy, because the Storm were the kings of it. But it's one thing to get to around about the top; it's another thing to stay there. What challenges do you think the Bulldogs find?
Well, now they're not the unknown, right? They're not the unknown to opposition teams. That's first and foremost, is that they're going to be on everyone's radar. Every time they come out, they roll out and play on a weekend, it doesn't matter who they're playing against. Well, teams and coaches, they're going to be well prepared for them. It's not like they're the cellar dwellers of previous years. Like they are a team that, come out this year and for the most part, like for 25 rounds, I think it was, they were like the best defensive team in the comp. So they are a tough footy side, but they are a quality outfit as well. And they know how to play footy. They know how to win tight games. Unfortunately, not the one on the weekend when it mattered, but that's the difficulty, is that it doesn't matter who you play, what form they bring into that game, that particular game that they're playing against you, that they get up for it. Which is why, when you look at particularly Penrith over the last 5 seasons now, why it makes their efforts so impressive off the back of losing quality players, year on year. They've still found a way to get up every year. Like they're in a prelim, mate. They are one victory away, and I don't want to get lost on Penrith here because we're talking doggies, but they're one victory away from playing 5 consecutive grand finals. It's craziness.
And they get a week off, which is probably the one thing they needed, was that rest.
Yeah, craziness. So, now that's, I think that's what teams they should aspire or strive to do, is go, okay, well, at the moment, you look at Penrith, they are the benchmark of the NRL. That's what every team in the comp should be trying to do.
Yeah.
Find a way to be able to be so consistent as consistent as Penrith and bring your best every year, bring your best every week, and try to somehow stay at the top like they've done for a long, long time.
Alrighty, yeah. My thoughts on the Bulldogs is, what excites me a lot about the Bulldogs is that I know they didn't win on the weekend, and it almost sounds a little bit hollow, but I really felt that Ciraldo came up with the game plan to nullify a lot of what Manly do. And I think that it's exciting to know that not only do you have a side that can kind of graft its way through a season, but a side that also played finals type footy. That's exciting for me, that they can go, all right, yes, we didn't get the win. It took Tom Trbojevic and DCE, two of the game's biggest superstars, on the fifth tackle to come up with something magical to break us. And heading into next year, it just gives you more and more confidence. And like there's a lot of things that didn't go the Bulldogs' way, including I think that they had the fourth most injuries this year. So
Really?
not
Okay.
only did they have one of the rosters on paper that we all kind of looked at and said, look, on paper, this team is overachieving. They also had to deal with a stack of injuries as well,
Mm, mm.
which is super exciting. And also, like, you know, Stephen Crichton, he's been the golden child this year, but it's his first year of captaincy. He's going to learn
Yeah.
a bunch as well.
23-year-old.
23 years old, and so you got Sexton, who only had half a year. Like we kind of get caught up in that what went so great for the Bulldogs. We actually don't look at all the things that actually aren't ideal. For example, swapping your halfback halfway through the season. Like usually that's a disaster.
Never the best thing.
Yeah, it's a disaster, and yet they managed to make it work. Sexton, he's a young halfback, another year under his belt. You've got Connor Tracy, didn't even start the year. Like their spine, two
Yep.
of the key players in it weren't even in it at the start of the year.
Yeah.
So I just think there is so much to look forward to. Yes, of course, you've always got to be a bit nervous about a team that goes really well one year. How are they going to back it up? However, what excites me for the Bulldogs is that the difference with this year is that Serraldo said, you know what, I'm cleaning out my whole roster last year and I'm bringing in blokes that buy into my culture. And that gives me more faith that the current roster that he's got is willing to go again and buy all the way into what he's doing.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I think they got to be super proud, mate. And that going off that game on the weekend, right, where they did so much right. They did pretty much everything right, except for shut down that final try of Manly. But when you look back on the way that Manly come about with their tries, like three of their tries, they wasn't a whole lot of structure. There was a set move. It come up with there was a really special trick play from the scrum where DCE scored, right?
Yeah.
So that's always pretty difficult to defend. You got to make some really good decisions. Multiple defenders have to make really good decisions to shut down those plays. That's why they're becoming so hard to defend, those scrum plays, particularly from the middle of the field, right? So that's DCE. You got the Bullymore try. That was off the back of a kick. All right, you go for the
call too.
Yeah, 50-50 call with the contest. The ball comes down. He still had to beat a couple of defenders to get there, and then of course the Kohler try, which was that's out of the top drawer type of stuff, right? Which is it makes for great finals footy, but that's why for Manly to win, to beat the Doggies, they had to come up with some really really special plays.
Yeah,
and they did, right? To their credit, they did. And that's why they're playing this week and they're not knocked out. But to all the Bulldogs fans and particularly the players and coaches, they need to be really, really proud of what they were able to achieve this year and obviously next year. And knowing Cameron Serraldo and where he's come from with Penrith, there's no doubt that they'll have their break. Some players may have to play some representative football in the Pacific Championships, but they'll come back and they'll get straight back to work when they get back to Belmore, and they'll want to go. They'll want to go better again next year.
Alrighty, on to the Knights. Second straight week one exit from the finals under Adam O'Brien. Schiller, the only confirmed signing for next season. I think he's the outside back for the Raiders. Good pick up there. Bradman Best, Gagai and Gamble, Saifidi, that's Jacob Saifidi, have already signed over the course of 2024. Daniel Saifidi looks like he's heading towards the exit. Well, basically confirmed on his social media. News Corp reporting he's close to securing a move to the Dolphins, with Newcastle expected to chip in $200K of his $850K salary for the next two seasons. Thoughts on the Knights season, mate?
Bit up and down, well, very much up and down. Like the last, they need to find a game plan that doesn't rely as heavily on Kalen Ponga. I don't know what you think, mate, but. And news, when they talk, and it's the way they got to talk, like they come out and say, look, we're not a one team, we're not a one-player team. But in all seriousness, I say this with all due respect to the players there, but you take Kalen Ponga out of that match the other night against the Cowboys, I reckon they get beat by 30.
It's hard not to argue against it. It really isn't.
Well, and I'm just commenting on what I watched. He's the only reason that they were in with a chance.
They even made the finals, to be honest.
Well, yeah, like his last couple of games, mate. Hey,
Yeah.
He got them across the line. Like against the Dolphins, they scored. It was 2 tries. They scored 2 tries,
Conversion.
and he was the only man that looked likely that whole afternoon against the Dolphins. He set both up.
Yeah.
Off the back of individual brilliance, where he broke multiple tackles. He was dancing across the defensive line. He put guys through holes, and then the other night, the same thing. Same thing. Like that, That move he put on. Who did he put that
Oh,
move on? Who was it on?
Vilea on the centres.
Vilea,
I know,
that's
yeah,
right.
Felt ended up
Oh,
intercepting, but
goodness me.
wow, incredible.
Jesus. Again, like he kept them in the game. So they need to come up with a plan to go, okay, right, we obviously need Kalen Ponga heavily involved with our attack, and he needs plenty of touches, but we need a point of difference as well. We just can't rely on one man to get the job done for us because it's too difficult for one person to do that all year.
Mm.
And like when teams actually, and it's really hard to take Kalen Ponga out of the game. That's how good he is. But when they start to minimise the impact he has, like what chances do you have if that's just your 1 point of point scoring?
Mm. A quick correction. I'm like Ron Burgundy. I just read what is in front of me.
Okay.
The Knights actually won their first game last year, so they went into
Yeah.
week 2 against the Warriors away
Yes.
at the Warriors. So just that correction there.
Mm.
I'm kind of torn with the Knights because from a defensive standpoint, I thought they showed a lot of grit and determination and really reflected the Steel City that they're from. And I think that
Yep.
they did show a lot of DNA.
Yep.
However, they're one of the rare clubs where some of their own decisions get in their way. And what I mean by that is it is very clear some of the decisions they make that they're almost doing well in spite of themselves. And I'm speaking about the halves situation. And it all stems back to a few years ago where KP got moved to 6. And then
Yes.
the domino effect, they are still feeling that effect years later in their halves combination. Now, the exciting thing for Knights fans, guys, is this. Peter O'Sullivan has arrived at the club. Peter Parr is also a part of the club. 2 men in key positions that have been part of premiership winning pushes at clubs. And I think that they are the right men to sort out the roster mess that has been kind of thrust upon this
Put
playing
together.
group. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I look at the Knights, I go, you know what? By their own decisions, they had their backs up against the wall, but they showed grit and determination to get into the finals. And I think that gives them a pass mark. And so I think the actual roster deserves a lot of credit for fighting their way into the finals. I think that it's decisions above them. That's what needs to improve for the Knights going forward. And that trickles down to what you're saying, Smithy, is more needs to be put around. Kalen Ponga needs to be put in a better environment to do what he does so that the team can do even better than just rely on him.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure Kalen Ponga is also a guy sitting there going, look, I love being the main man. And I'll
Love a bit of help.
Yeah, I'd also love a bit of help. And so the biggest concern next year is we still don't know who their 6, 7, and 9 is going to be because there's also whispers that Brayley has potentially been told he can look elsewhere.
Okay.
There's been whispers that I think it's Matt Arthur, under 19s hooker from the Eels.
Yes, Brad Arthur's son.
Brad Arthur's son is going to go to the Knights. What I will say is that next year I hope that they get a spine in the preseason. The whole preseason they train in that spine and give them till at least round 4 or 5, maybe even round 10.
Yep.
To gel together. Because if that could put it this way, imagine this roster with KP not getting injured and a spine that's stuck together the whole year. They probably finish in the top 6.
Yeah. Well, they got every possibility to do, don't they?
Yeah.
Because they've got some experienced players there and they know how to get the job done. So I just think, they really need to start finding a way to share the load as far as their attack is concerned. Because at the moment, it's really just one man. And if you get your defence right on Kalen Ponga, then you're going a long way to shutting the Knights down and getting a victory. I'm just wondering whether if they move, say Jaden Brayley's not there next year. I don't think they've gone and purchased anyone. Do they move? Does Crossland go to 9?
Well, I think Arthur.
Does Crossland go to 9?
Their hope is Arthur will be there.
So okay. They want him to be a starter.
I think
Arthur.
That's the plan that I've heard. Again, it's not confirmed, but it's just like the whispers that you hear.
That's the talk.
Yeah.
Righto.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I will say, ironically, it proves your point that Kalen Ponga and they can't rely on him because if he makes one mistake, they lose the game. And what happened? He made a line break and instead of passing inside, he passed outside.
Oh,
You know,
I bet he wish he had his time again,
yeah,
KP
and
there.
which is unfair on him because he's already done so much. It's like,
Yep. Yep.
so yeah. Look, I give the Knights a pass, Mark. I really do. I think they were, especially the playing roster. They were
Yep.
gritty. They were tough. Things didn't go their way. Some decisions that were made went against them. However, they showed a lot of fight, especially in their last finals game this year. So I give them a pass, Mark. I just
Yep.
think they need a bit more organisation from above heading into next year.